Hello everyone, good evening. I'm Ankit and you're watching StudyIQ IS. Today is 22nd of February and we are going to discuss important articles from newspaper. Now these articles, give me a minute. Yeah. Now these articles appeared across the newspapers of 3 days. Yesterday, my brain was not braining anymore, so I decided not to take the session as I opened the newspaper, but I was unable to grasp any of it. So I thought, why not discuss it tomorrow? That is today. Now, let us begin with our today's discussion. The first article is about actually whether or not Lokpal has its jurisdiction over the judges of High Court. This was the issue that Lokpal considered, and Lokpal said indeed yes, it had the jurisdiction over High Court judges. However, the Supreme Court of India felt otherwise and rejected this notion of Lokpal. Now, Lokpal is a ombudsman, which is important from GS paper 2 perspective. Therefore, it becomes important from our polity syllabus. Also, we'll be discussing about Article 1014, which deals with the absence of an MP. In that case, there is a provision in the Constitution that the seat of that MP who has been absent from the House of the Parliament for more than 60 days, that can become vacant. So, we'll be discussing Article 101, subsection 4 of the Constitution in our today's discussion. And this is a part of legislature. Therefore, it is important from GS paper 2 syllabus again, which is a part of polity. Then we'll be discussing about real estate investment trust and infrastructure investment trust. These are important pooled investment vehicle which become important from economy perspective. And also we have seen that India's financial market and its questions have been increasingly asked, especially from the year 2020 onwards. So that is why these developments related to REITs and InvITs, they become important from our prelims perspective. And also I told you this is a part of economy syllabus, therefore relevant paper for UPSC is GS paper 3. Then we'll be discussing about the extension of the current term of the Chief Economic Advisor. Chief Economic Advisor is an important part of Finance Ministry. He has many functions. One of the most glaring function of Chief Economic Advisor is that he is responsible for drafting and presentation of the economic survey, which is presented one day before the union budget. So in this regard, we'll be discussing Chief Economic Advisor. Then we'll take a look at the article which highlighted that the global sea ice cover has become or has gone to an all-time low. We'll understand the factors behind it and what may be the consequences of such reduction in the global sea ice cover. And this becomes a part of environment syllabus, therefore GS paper 3 environment. And in the end, we'll be discussing about Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj, because February the 19th is the birth anniversary of the great Maratha ruler, and we'll be understanding some important aspects about his life, because such articles, although they are not appearing in the news frequently, so whenever they appear, it becomes important from our exams perspective. And also it helps us diversify our discussion, because generally we tend to follow articles from economy, polity, environment, etc., right? But how often do you find a historical figure mentioned in any news article? That is why this kind of an article becomes important from Indian art and culture perspective, which is a part of GS paper 1 syllabus, and also from medieval history perspective, right? So these are the articles that we are going to cover today. Yesterday I missed your session. Well, Malu bhai, yesterday there was not a session yesterday for many reasons. Now, you know the drill. I will be making the notes available after the session end on my Telegram channel ATS Live. Please make sure to search the keywords ATS Live on the top right hand corner of your mobile app, and you can also scan the QR code which will take you directly to my Telegram channel, and I upload important links for the sessions. I upload notes and many discussion that happens on the session. So please do not forget to subscribe to the Telegram channel. Now, before moving forward with the discussion, let us first get done at the yesterday's question that I had given you as a homework. This question, it asks you what is the key difference between remission and commutation. Now I told you about remission, right? It is a provision which allows the government to reduce the sentence of a particular convict without changing the nature of the sentence, whereas commutation is actually reducing the nature of the sentence itself, right? So the key difference between remission and commutation, it is remission reduces sentence duration without changing the nature of the punishment, while commutation changes the punishment into a lesser form. So, for example, if a person is under a death penalty, if his sentence is commuted, that means his death penalty might be converted into a life sentence. Whereas for remission, if a person is subjected to a strict confinement for 10 years. So the strict confinement will continue, but the duration of that sentence might be reduced to 8 or 5 years. Understood? So this is what remission is. Therefore, option A here is the right answer. Now, let us deal with the first article of the day. Before that, good evening, Baga Springs. Happy weekend, sir. See, my weekend doesn't begin till late in the night. In Saturday, I have to work. Kusum, good evening. How are you? I'm good, Kusum. How are you? Arya, good evening. Malu Bhai, good evening. Aditya, good evening. Now, the first article of the day, it appeared on the very front page of yesterday's newspaper, and it said that the Supreme Court, it had stayed the Lokpal's decision to probe High Court judges. Now, this was in news yesterday. Supreme Court has stayed the order of the Lokpal to bring under its ambit the investigation or the conduct of High Court judges. And why did it did so? Let us understand this in our today's article. Now, first of all, let us understand what are the jurisdiction of the body called Lokpal. Now, Lokpal was itself formed by a act called as Lokpal and Lokayukta Act. Therefore, the powers of Lokpal, it is derived from this very act, right? Now, section 14, subsection 1F of the Lokpal and Lokayuktas Act, it says that any person who is or has been a member, officer or employee in any body, board, corporation on authority which is established by an act of parliament or is financed or controlled by the central government, then these persons are eligible to be investigated for any wrongdoings by Lokpal. Understood? So, this is the normal jurisdiction of Lokpal that is given under section 14 1F. Now, this extends over to many government functionaries. For example, even the Prime Minister of India, ministers of the Union Cabinet, members of Parliament and the officers of the Union Government, be in Group A, B, C or D services, these employees or these government functionaries, they are subjected to be investigated by Lokpal in case they or it is alleged that they have undertake some wrong action, right? Now, this examination of applicability, whether this jurisdiction extends to judges of High Court or Supreme Court in general. Now, on this regard, the Lokpal has said that judges, including those of Supreme Court of India, these are public servants as per the section 2C of the Prevention of Corruption Act, right? So, when one of the act passed by parliament designates them as a public servant, so why can't or why can Lokpal not consider them as public servants, right? So, this is the moot point of our today's discussion, whether or not these judges, be it of High Court or Supreme Court, are they covered under the jurisdiction of Lokpal under section 14 1F of the Lokpal and Lokayuktas Act. Now, in this regard, the Lokpal has interpreted the section 14 1F and it had stated that it applies to entities which is established by Act of Parliament or it is controlled and financed by the central government. And in its judgment, the Lokpal has clarified that the Supreme Court, it does not qualify to be called as a body which is established by an Act of Parliament because the Supreme Court of India derives its power not from an Act of Parliament but from Article 124 of the Constitution. And judges, including the Chief Justice of India of Supreme Court, these are not controlled and financed by central government. Therefore, the Supreme Court and its judges, these are not covered under the jurisdiction of Lokpal. Understood? So, when it comes to the jurisdiction or whether Supreme Court judges and the judges are covered, the answer is no. So, they are not covered. This was established by Lokpal in its judgment. Now, let us deal with whether or not Lokpal's jurisdiction extends to the High Court or not. Now, in this court or in this regard, the Lokpal, it has argued that High Court judges, they qualify to be called as public servants, and the reason that Lokpal gave is that High Courts, they were earlier established under the British Parliamentary Act, for example, Indian High Courts Act 1861 and Government of India Act 1935. And Article 214 of the Indian Constitution, it only recognizes but not establishes the High Court. So, in contrast with Article 124 that explicitly established the Supreme Court of India, therefore, you can say that Supreme Court of India is a child of the Indian Constitution. But you can't say the same about Indian High Courts. And why? Because Indian High Courts, they were earlier established by the British Parliamentary Act, and Article 214, which highlights High Court, it just recognizes High Courts and does not establish them. So, this was the reason given by Lokpal and saying that High Court is covered under Lokpal jurisdiction, whereas Supreme Court is not, because it was formed by Article 124 of the Constitution and not by an Act of Parliament. Understood? Now, in this regard, the Supreme Court in its judgment, by staying the decision of Lokpal, it highlighted that all the judges, be it of High Court or Supreme Court, they are appointed under the Constitution of India. So, therefore, it provides them the immunity from under the jurisdiction of Lokpal, therefore, they are not covered. So, is it clear? Now, Yashi, good evening. How are you? I'm good, Yashi. How are you? Hello, Kesaria. Nice name, Kesaria. Now let us deal with the question, or let us see whether or not you understood this question or not. Now, with reference to the jurisdiction of Lokpal under Lokpal and Lokayuktas Act 2013, consider the following statement. Now, High Court judges, they qualify as public servants under section 14(1)(f) of the Lokpal Act because High Court was established under Parliamentary Act and not explicitly created by the Indian Constitution. Is this statement right? After our today's discussion, can anyone let me know? Let us deal with second statement before. The Supreme Court of India, it's outside the jurisdiction of Lokpal because it is a body established by Constitution of India. Yes, this is right. Even the Lokpal in its judgment highlighted this very fact by excluding the jurisdiction of Supreme Court of India. Now, since none of you have given the answer, I'll say, see, first statement is incorrect because this was the reason given by Lokpal, but now the Supreme Court of India has said that both the judges of High Court and Supreme Court, they are appointed as per the provisions of Constitution. Therefore, they are not under the jurisdiction of Lokpal. So, first statement becomes incorrect. Second was right. We have to identify correct statement. Option B here is the right answer. Now, let us deal with another article. This one actually, yes, Bhanu, you're right. Option first is not right. Bhaga Sphinx, you're right. Bhanu, you're right. Option B is correct. Now, let us deal with another article. This one appeared on yesterday's newspaper on page 14 and it deals with Article 101, subsection 4 of the Indian Constitution. Now, why this actual article of the Constitution was given in the newspaper? And you have to understand that the Khadur Sahib MP, Amritpal Singh, who has been accused for many crimes under the PSA, Public Safety Act, he has been detained under the National Security Act since April 2023. While being detained in jail, Indian provisions are so liberal for convicts that this person was able to contest and he eventually won the Lok Sabha elections. Now, as he is detained under the jail, even after he won the Lok Sabha, he has still not taken his oath and he has still not appeared in the Lok Sabha as the MP. So, he has moved to the Punjab and Haryana High Court seeking permission to attend the ongoing parliamentary session. Now, this is because the Article 101, subsection 4 of the Constitution appeared in the newspaper. Now, Article 101(4), it states that if a period for 60 days, a member of either house of the parliament without permission is absent from the all meetings of the house, so in that case the house may declare his or her seat as vacant if he or she is absent for more than 60 days. However, for calculation of this 60 days of absence, you have to remember that it does not include the time whenever parliament is prorogued, which means if the house is not in session, that duration has to be excluded while calculating this 60 days. Also, if the parliament is adjourned for a period of more than 4 consecutive days, then also that period has to be removed from calculating the 60 days of absence. Understood? Also, the practical implications of this particular Article 101(4) is that 60 days of absence, it is counted only for actual sittings of parliament, and in Amritpal's case, this absence is based only on the active parliament session and not on the total calendar days since he has been detained in the jail, right? Now, in case of vacation of seats on account of absence, you have to remember that this seat, it does not become vacant automatically. Rather, it will become vacant only after the fact the house, it should vote to declare that seat vacant, then only the seat will become vacant. It does not become vacant automatically if the member is absent for more than 60 days. Understood this? Now, what is the actual procedure in order to that some MP can take a leave of absence from the parliament of the house? Now, in case of any emergency of any reason whatsoever, the parliament wants to seek permission for prolonged absent, in that case the MP must submit a request to the Committee on Absence of Members from the sitting of the House, which first of all reviews the leave application and then recommends whether to approve or reject this application of seeking the prolonged absent from the houses. For example, in 2023, a BSP MP called as Mr. Atul Rai, he was granted a leave for 23 consecutive sittings due to his incarceration. So that is why you have to first apply to this committee, and this committee actually considers your application and then accepts or rejects your leave of absence. Okay. Now, in that regard, let us try to solve this question. Now, with reference to Article 1014 of the Constitution, let us consider the following statement. A member of Parliament who is absent for 60 consecutive calendar days without permission automatically vacates his or her seat. Is it correct? The answer is no. There is no automatically vacation. Rather, this vacation of seat will only happen after the House of the Parliament votes in that regard. The second statement, the 60-day absence calculation includes period when the Parliament is prorogued or adjourned for more than 4 consecutive days. Actually, it excludes this period, right? It does not include this period. So, second statement also becomes incorrect. MP, they can seek the permission for prolonged absence by applying to the presiding officer of the House. That is, for case of Lok Sabha, it is Speaker of Lok Sabha, and in case of Raj Sabha, it is the Chairman of Raj Sabha, who is the Vice President of India. So, in that case, is it correct? No. They have to file this application to the Committee on Absence of Members from the sitting of the House and not to the presiding officer. Therefore, third statement also becomes incorrect. First and second, we have already told you that all of these 3 statements are incorrect and we have to identify our incorrect statement. So, all these 3 are incorrect. Option D, therefore, is the right answer. Kesaria, sir, he is Punjabi Gunda. Yes, actually. Now, let us understand, sorry, let us deal with the next article. Give me a break. Now, let us deal with the next article of the day. This article appeared in the business page of yesterday's newspaper, and it states that the SEBI, which is India's Securities Market Regulator, it is proposed a framework for undertaking fast track follow-on offers. Now, what are follow-on offers? You must have heard about initial public offering, wherever the entity it offers its share to the public for the first time. Now, after the IPO has happened and some shares in the market exist, if the company wants to issue more shares to the public, it takes a follow-on offering or further public offering. Understood? So, this is what this article is talking about. Now, today's discussion will be about these 2 financial instruments, that is real estate investment trust as well as infrastructural investment trust. Understood? Now, let us first understand what are these real estate investment trusts. Now, you must have heard about mutual funds, right? Whenever more than one people, they pool their money. For example, you and I, we contribute 10,000 rupees each. So, the pool will consist of 20,000, right? And this 20,000 can be invested in different kinds of securities, be it shares, be it bonds, be it properties. So, if that case, there are many people who are pooling their money, and if that money is invested to own or finance income generating real estates, these are called as real estate investment trust. And investors, they can invest in diversified portfolio which can consist of properties, be it office building, residential apartment, shopping malls, hotels, etc. And therefore, this kind of an instrument, it allows individuals to invest in real estate without owning these private properties. Now, for example, if you go and buy the house, that house may cost 1 to 1.5 crore rupees. But what if you just have 10 lakh rupees? So, you can buy a real estate investment trust which will allow you to buy a part of that physical property, right? So, this is how it allows retail investors to invest in physical properties without actually owning the complete physical property. Similarly, are the infrastructure investment fund. Now, this infrastructure investment fund, it pools the money, and the pooled money is invested in construction and owning of different infrastructural projects, be it road, bridges, anything, etc. So, these are investment instruments that allow investors to invest in infrastructural projects like road, highways, power distribution networks, telecom towers, etc. And they function similarly to mutual funds, as I have told you, pooling money from individual investors and financing this in buying income generating infrastructure or assets. Now, these are designed as tiered structure. First of all, a sponsor of this InvIT will first of all invest his or her money using a special purpose vehicle, and then ask for people more money to invest in these kind of infrastructure project, right? Now the part of investment that are done in both REITs and InvITs, they are used by investors both in a form of loan and in form of capital. So suppose if your investment was given in a form of loan, so what will be your return? Your return will be the interest income, right? Whereas if you buy a share in this infrastructure investment fund, your investment will be called as a capital, and what you will gain out of this capital, you will be gaining out of this capital dividend, which is a part of profit, right? So the income that people generate in investing these kind of infrastructure funds are of two types: interest income as well as dividend income. Now both of these income, they are subjected to taxation, right? So you are not exempted from tax. Also, if you sell this infrastructure investment trust or REITs for a profit, so you are also eligible to pay in capital gains taxes, right? And all of this is taxable. Please remember that. Now as per SEBI's regulation, so as to make this kind of investment opportunity low risk, it mandates that InvITs, they must invest at least 80% of their assets in projects that have been completed and revenue generating. Understood? So they can't invest majority of their funds in a project which is under construction. Rather, they have to be first of all completed and revenue generating. Then only your money, 80% of it at least, have to be invested in these kind of projects. Also, these are recognized as a borrowers under SARFAESI Act 2002. So in case your borrowings fail, you are eligible to be recourse under the SARFAESI Act. Understood this? So how do you achieve such diverse subject knowledge? Just by reading newspapers. It is very easy. Well, I teach economy, so I know a thing or two about economy. Now, let us deal with the practice question. This practice question is actually a PYQ which appeared in the prelims in 2023. So, let us see whether we are able to solve this PYQ or not. Now, consider the following statement. Statement 1, interest income from the deposits in infrastructure investment trust, in which these are distributed to investors. This is exempted from tax, but the dividends are taxable. What did I tell you about the interest income? There are two types of income that you make out of these investments. These are called interest income if your investment is called as a loan, and if your investment is a capital, then you are eligible to get a part of profit which is called as dividend, and both of these income, these are actually taxable. Understood? So this says that if your interest income is exempted from the tax, therefore first statement becomes incorrect. Second statement, in which these are recognized as borrower under securitization and reconstruction of financial assets and enforcement of security interest 2002, that is SARFAESI Act. I told you, right, that in case your investment goes bad, you are eligible to take recourse under SARFAESI Act. Therefore, second statement becomes correct. First was incorrect, I told you. So, which of the following statement is correct in the above statement? Option D, which states that statement 1 is incorrect, statement 2 is correct, is the right answer to this PYQ. Sir, how to cover governance for GS paper 2? Well, I'll tell you. Everything is taxed. No, not everything is taxed. Your bread that you buy, milk that you buy from the market, that is exempted from GST. Also, if you are earning less than 12 lakh rupees every year, now you will not be taxed. Now you asked, right, how to cover governance for GS paper 2. Well, in case you have doubts related to any subject like governance, economy, polity, we at StudyIQ, we offer a Sampoorn batch. Now, what is Sampoorn batch, if you may ask? Suppose if you want to enroll for this course, which is available on our website, click on Explore Courses. Now, this Sampoorn batch provides you with the study material. It provides you for classes with respect to every subject that is relevant for UPSC. And you will be taught this subject in an online manner. In addition to that, you will also be provided with a prelims test series, mains test series, and also a 24/7 mentor support to get all your doubts addressed by an expert mentor. Now, you can enroll for such batches which are available on our website. For example, currently the admissions process are open for batches for 2026 exam and 2027 exam. For example, if you want to enroll yourself for 2026 exam, right? So, click on this button. You see the course is available at 37,499. And if you click on buy now, let me tell you a way if you can get more discounts, even more discounts on 37,499. Now there must be a code which might be flashing on the bottom half of your screen, that is called as use the code ATS Live for maximum discount. So here add promo code. Now if you enter coupon code here and type ATS Live, which is my code, click on apply and see the course fees, it has reduced from 37,499 to 29,999, right? So click on buy now and get yourself registered, and please do not forget to add the code ATS Live in order to save your and your parents' hard-earned money. I understand how difficult it is to earn money, so please be very judicious about it, how to use that kind of money, okay? Now let us get back to our discussion, if you'll allow me. Now this discussion, we move into next article, which also appeared in yesterday's newspaper on the same very business page as the last article, which was on page 21. Now this article states that the Chief Economic Advisor, Mr. V. Anantha Nageshwaran, his term has been extended until March 2027. Now this article becomes relevant from GS paper 3, and the government actually has decided to extend his term. So in this regard, let us try to understand what is actually the office of Chief Economic Advisor, what role he or she plays in the daily policy matters. Now Chief Economic Advisor is a key government official who is responsible for providing economic analysis and policy advice to Government of India and particularly to the Ministry of Finance. Now in terms of his rank, he holds the rank of Secretary to the Government of India, and is also the ex officio cadre controlling authority of the Indian Economic Service. Just like Indian Administrative Service, Indian Police Service, there is also a central service known as Indian Economic Service, and the people under Indian Economic Service are hired by a separate exam conducted by UPSC. Now, Chief Economic Advisor, he is also the head of Economic Division, which is a part of Department of Economic Affairs under the Ministry of Finance. Now, one of the main functions of Chief Economic Advisor of India is that he provides expert economic advice to the Finance Minister and also to the Government of India on key related issues which are of macroeconomic importance, be it inflation, GDP growth, employment trends, etc. And the most important responsibility, which is highlighted in the news, is that he prepares and presents the economic survey, which is released one day before the budget. I told you, right? If the budget is released or presented to the Parliament on 1st of February, economic survey is released on 31st of January. And this economic survey is a document which provides a detailed economic analysis, and it also provides us the forecast of how the economy is going to be in the next few years, and it helps government makes policy decision. It helps the citizens understand the nuances of economy, right? Now let us move to the next article of the day. This article actually appeared day before yesterday in the Indian Express newspaper. However, because of time constraints, we were unable to take this article. So now today allows us to take this article, and this is very important. So please bear with me. Let us understand this article. Now this article states that the global sea ice cover, it has dipped to a new record low last week, as a study which was conducted by US National Snow and Ice Data Center, NSIDC, it states that over 5 days leading up to February the 13th, that is one day before Valentine's Day, the combined extent of Arctic and Antarctic sea ice, it has dropped to 15.76 million square kilometers, which is below the previous record low of 15.93 million square kilometers that happened in 2023. Now, why this Arctic sea ice or the Antarctic sea ice has actually reduced? Let us try to understand this. But before, let us understand first of all what is this sea ice and how is it different from different kind of ice which exist in water bodies. Now, sea ice, it refers to free floating ice in the polar regions. Especially it is formed when the ocean water on the top surface it freezes. Now it is different from icebergs, glaciers, ice sheets and ice shelves, because these kind of ices, they originate on the land. On the other hand, sea ice, as the name suggests, it is a free floating ice which is a ice formed from the top layer of the ocean waters, right? Now this ice or the availability of this ice, it changes with the season. For example, it expands into winter and it melts in the summer, whereas on the other hand, some sea ice, they remain present year around, right? So you can't say that ice will go absent during the months of summer. The amount of that sea ice might reduce, however, it will be present in some form or the other. Now, the historical trend in this ice decline, we have to understand that Arctic sea ice, it is witnessing shrinking, which is averaging at around 12.2% per decade. Now, since the 1970s, this Arctic sea ice, it has been declining rapidly, and it recorded the lowest level this year. Whereas the Antarctic sea ice, it has witnessed a different trend. Now, this trend, it existed until 2015, that the Antarctic sea ice, it actually increased slightly year on year basis. However, in 2023, it witnessed a record low in the presence of Antarctic sea ice. However, in the 2024-25, the ice sea cover, it improved slightly. However, it still remains 1.55 million square kilometer below the 1981 2020-10 average. So, in terms of Arctic sea loss, it is more than Antarctic sea loss. However, you have to say that both of these seas, they have witnessed sea loss in huge numbers. Understood? Now, let us understand the reasons which is causing the reduction in this ice sea cover. Now, first of all, let us deal with what is happening in the Arctic region. First of all, in Arctic region, we have seen that the ocean waters, they have become warmer. And as oceans, they take longer time to cool as compared to lands. Therefore, it delays the, first of all, the formation of sea ice. Also, the storms in the Barents and Bering Sea, which is a part of Arctic Ocean, their thinner ice, it is more fragile and it breaks apart easily when it comes into contact with such kind of storms. And also, there is a higher than normal temperature in the Arctic region, particularly in the region of Svalbard, which is a part of Norway, and Hudson Bay, which is located in Canada. Whereas in terms of Antarctic region, the ice breaking winds, it is destroying these icy winds. And also, you have to understand that the Arctic region, which is surrounded by land, in case of Antarctic, there is no presence of land, and the entire ice, it is surrounded by the ocean, which is more mobile and thinner. Therefore, in case of high speed winds, they break these ice easily. And also, there is a presence of warmer air and warmer water temperature, which melts more ice on the edges. Therefore, it reduces the amount of sea ice in the Antarctic region. अब मौत करीब है सर, हाँ बहुत करीब है, अंडरस्टैंड. जब तक नहीं आ रहा ना मौत, तब तक करंट अफेयर्स पढ़ लो. Now, let us deal with the consequences of declining sea ice. Now, first of all, you have to understand, whenever the presence of ice on any earth's surface, it reduces, it accelerates global warming. And you must have understand in our previous discussion that the polar regions, they are warming faster than the rest of the world. They are warming 4 times faster than the rest of the world. And when the Arctic region itself is warming, therefore, you can expect that the presence of ice, it will reduce, which will expose more surface to the sunlight, and it will enable the surface to absorb more amount of sunlight heat. Now, where white sea ice, it reflects sunlight because of an effect called as albedo effect, which is the ability of any surface to reflect sunlight, and the white sea ice, it reflects most of the sunlight. Therefore, the amount of heat absorbed by ice is very less as compared to the darker ocean waters, which absorbs more heat. Therefore, it leads to higher temperatures whenever these ocean waters are exposed to the sunlight as compared to the ice. Whereas this melting of ice, it also releases fresh water into the ocean. So, in terms of salinity, wherever the ice is melting in the ocean waters, in terms of salinity, that water might be less saline. As water will be less saline, the weight of that water will reduce. Therefore, unlike the saline water which goes down, or it reduces, or it undertakes a downward flow, these lower saline water will not undertake a downward flow, and therefore it slows down the ocean part of the circulation, where the heavier saline water, it goes down the surface, and the less saline water, it comes up, right? So, this circulation is very important for circulation of temperatures. Whereas, if your water is becoming less saline, it will not circulate, therefore it will not lead to circulation of the ocean water. And these two processes, these are exacerbated by the melting of sea ice. Understood? Now, let us understand this practice question. What are the possible consequences of melting of sea ice? The decline in sea ice, it leads to higher absorption of solar radiation, accelerating global warming. I told you, right? Sea ice or ice in any form has higher albedo effect. Whereas, if you melt this ice and expose surface or even ocean water surfaces to the sunlight, it allows more absorption of the sunlight, which leads to increase in temperatures. So first statement here is correct. Now melting sea ice, it contributes significantly to global sea level rise, causing coastal flooding. Now, is melting or sea ice so high number that it can cause coastal flooding? The answer is no. It can be caused by melting of glaciers, not sea ice. So this is actually an absolute statement and a drastic statement, so you could have easily marked it incorrectly. Now the third statement, fresh water released from melting sea ice, it reduces ocean salinity, which can disrupt the global ocean currents. Yes, it is right, I told you, as the circulation of water, which is a part of the water becoming more saline, it goes downward. That does not happen in case of melting sea ice, because it releases more fresh water into the ocean surfaces, right? So third statement is right, first is right, second is incorrect, and we have to identify correct statement. 1 and 3 are right, so option C here is the right answer. Good evening, Aanchal. Now let us move to next article, or the last article of the day. Second option was tricky. You have to read those options. When you keep your mind open, you'll be easily able to answer those options. Now let us move to the last article. This article actually talks about the legendary Maratha ruler Chhatrapati Shivaji, and I have borrowed this article from the website. And why I have borrowed this article from the website? Because the birth anniversary of Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj actually fell this week, that is on 19th of February. Now you have to remember some of the facts about this legendary Maratha ruler. He was born on 19th of February 1630 at Shivneri Fort, which is located in Maharashtra, to a general of the Deccan Sultanate, Shaji Bhosle, and his wife Jijabai. Now the guru or the mentor of Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj was Dadoji Kondadev, and he taught him administration, warfare and governance. Now Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj, he laid the foundation of a Hindavi Swaraj, which is a self-rule against the Mughal and Sultanate rule. Now he was also crowned as the Chhatrapati, which is the king of the Maratha Confederacy, on 1674 at Raigad Fort. Now let us understand some of the important decisions and reforms that Maharaja Chhatrapati Shivaji brought. Now he released a well-organized, or he established a well-organized administrative system, which was called as Ashtpradhan, which is a council of 8 ministers, which dealt with many matters of administration, military and day-to-day governance. Now he captured and built over 300 forts strategically across Maharashtra, and this was the hold of Marathas over these forts that enabled them to counter the invading armies of Mughal and Deccan Sultanate. So you have to understand the primary form of warfare which was engaged by these Marathi warriors. This was a guerrilla warfare, and when they had this control over the jungle and they had this dominance over the forts, and that enabled them to dominate the armies much more larger in size than them. Now he was the first Indian king to establish a strong navy. He built a warship which enabled the Maratha Confederacy to secure the Konkan coastline. Konkan coastline is located near Western Ghats between Maharashtra and Goa. Now the major battles that were fought by Maharaja Chhatrapati Shivaji was Battle of Pratapgarh, which happened in 1659, where Chhatrapati Shivaji, he defeated Afzal Khan of the Bijapur Sultanate, whereas in Battle of Kolhapur, which happened again in 1659, he defeated Adil Shahi forces. Understood? So let us now solve the last practice question, but before that I will make today's notes available on my Telegram channel ATS Live. So this question is a homework for you. I will take up this question before the start of the next session on Monday. Please have a great weekend. Please revise the entire last week of the notes which I have made available on my Telegram channel. I hope you have a great weekend. My weekend starts some hours from now because I have to take a class from 6 to 9. So I'll see you on Monday. Until then, please have a very good weekend.